Across the dry grasslands of East Africa lives a creature weighing less than 15 kilograms, yet it commands caution from venomous snakes, vultures, swarms of bees, and many other predators. It is neither the fastest nor the strongest, yet through sheer fearlessness, an extraordinary sense of smell, and the ability to turn every opportunity into a meal, it has become one of Africa's most remarkable survival specialists. Today, we will follow a mother honey badger through a single challenging day, where every step, every decision, and every meal could determine the survival of both herself and the 3 cubs waiting inside their den. As the first rays of sunlight pierce through the thin morning mist over the East African savannah, a small dark figure quietly emerges from the entrance of its den. It does not announce itself with the powerful roar of a lion or the thunderous hoofbeats of antelope, yet its appearance always signals that a day of constant challenges is about to begin. Ahead lie dozens of kilometers of dry grassland, where food is scarce and danger lurks everywhere. Behind her, 3 cubs are waiting for their mother to return. For a honey badger, every sunrise is not simply the beginning of a new day, but the start of a battle for survival, where every decision can determine the fate of the entire family. Contrary to what many people imagine, a honey badger does not spend its entire day charging into reckless confrontations. In reality, most of its time is spent quietly observing and searching. With its exceptionally keen sense of smell, it constantly sniffs the ground, following scents that almost no other animal can detect. Whether it is an insect nest buried deep beneath the soil, a rodent hiding inside its burrow, or the carcass of an animal left behind from the previous night, it can find them all. For a mother honey badger raising 3 cubs, no meal is too small. Every opportunity, no matter how slim, is worth pursuing, because on this unforgiving savannah, survival does not depend on overwhelming strength, but begins with the ability to notice what everyone else has overlooked. After nearly an hour of wandering beneath the increasingly scorching sun, the honey badger's keen nose suddenly catches a familiar scent. Not far away, the carcass of a young antelope lies in the grass, with clear signs that it had become the meal of a large predator during the night. But on the African savannah, finding food has never meant being able to eat it. Within minutes, dark silhouettes begin to appear in the sky. A flock of vultures, with their razor-sharp eyesight, has quickly spotted the carcass and lands one after another, forming a dense wall around the precious food source. Instead of rushing in to compete, the honey badger suddenly stops at a safe distance. It quietly watches every movement of the birds, as though waiting for something. That patience is the small animal's greatest weapon, because in the wild, the winner is not always the one who arrives first, but often the one who knows exactly when to make its move. Time passes slowly as the flock of vultures continues tearing strips of flesh from the antelope carcass. They jostle, shove one another, and remain constantly alert for other rivals circling overhead. In the distance, the honey badger remains almost perfectly still. Each time a vulture lifts its head to look around, it lowers its body closer to the ground. Whenever the flock becomes distracted by fighting among themselves, it quietly moves a few steps closer. This is not hesitation or fear, but a strategy refined through millions of years of evolution. Weighing only about 10 to 14 kilograms, confronting an entire flock of vultures head-on would consume enormous amounts of energy and carry a serious risk of injury. In the wild, even a small wound can leave an animal unable to find food for days. That is why knowing when to advance and when to retreat is sometimes even more important than courage itself. It is also why the honey badger rarely fights without purpose. It only strikes when a genuine opportunity for success appears. Then that moment finally arrives. As the vultures finish feeding and gradually disperse in different directions to rest, the open space around the antelope carcass grows larger and larger. Wasting no opportunity, the honey badger immediately accelerates. Within seconds, it reaches the carcass and uses its powerful jaws to tear away the remaining scraps of meat before any rival has a chance to return. On the savannah, a meal rarely belongs to the animal that discovers it first. It usually belongs to the one that knows how to seize the final opportunity. Biologists refer to this strategy as opportunistic feeding, and the honey badger is one of its greatest masters, Rather than wasting energy on prolonged chases, it is always ready to take advantage of carcasses, abandoned prey, or the leftovers from another predator's hunt. This feeding strategy allows the honey badger to conserve valuable energy, reduce the risk of injury, and greatly increase its chances of survival in an environment where food is always scarce. But this brief meal is only enough to keep it going for a little while longer. With 3 rapidly growing cubs waiting in the den, the search for food is far from over, and the next challenge is already quietly unfolding not far away. In another corner of the savannah, an even fiercer confrontation is unfolding. A secretary bird, standing nearly as tall as an adult human, is facing off against a venomous snake. Unlike most birds of prey that use their talons to subdue their quarry, the secretary bird relies on its long, incredibly powerful legs to deliver precise kicks at astonishing speed. Every strike is aimed at avoiding the deadly bites from its opponent's venom-filled fangs. Meanwhile, the honey badger, instead of appearing immediately, quietly conceals itself behind low bushes. It has no intention of joining the fight. It simply watches intently, patiently waiting, because instinct tells it that the greatest reward often appears only after someone else's battle has come to an end. At last, after several minutes of intense struggle, the venomous snake finally collapses under the secretary bird's relentless kicks. It seems as though victory belongs entirely to this skilled hunter, but at the very moment it lets its guard down, a dark figure suddenly bursts from the grass. The honey badger accelerates with remarkable decisiveness, seizes the snake in its jaws, and quickly retreats before the secretary bird has a chance to react. It was not the victor of the battle, yet it is the one that claims the final reward. In nature, this is neither reckless nor deceitful behavior, but an exceptionally effective survival strategy. Sometimes, knowing how to wait for the right moment brings far greater rewards than rushing headlong into dangerous battles yourself. Leaving the site of the recent struggle behind, the honey badger continues its journey as the sun climbs close to its highest point and the heat begins to blanket the entire savannah. The previous meal provided only a partial boost of energy, nowhere near enough to meet the demands of a mother raising 3 rapidly growing cubs. After several minutes of constantly sniffing the ground, it suddenly stops in front of an ancient tree. A faint scent of beeswax and sweet honey drifts from a hollow high in the trunk. For most animals, it is an enticing yet dangerous food source, with thousands of bees ready to defend their hive to the very end. But for the honey badger, it is an opportunity it knows all too well. Within seconds, it begins raking its long, powerful front claws against the wood, ignoring the increasingly furious buzzing coming from inside the hive. Before long, the entire swarm of bees pours out to surround the intruder. Thousands of stings rain down on the honey badger's head, neck and back in a determined effort to drive it away. Yet the small animal is barely fazed. The thick, tough and remarkably loose skin covering its body greatly reduces the impact of the bee's stingers, while its coarse fur provides an additional layer of natural protection. Without rushing, it continues tearing open the tree hollow, using its powerful snout to pull out chunks of honeycomb. The reward inside is not only energy-rich honey but also countless bee larvae and pupae, a valuable source of protein and fat for a mother raising cubs that are growing larger every day. But although this meal is highly nutritious, the honey badger knows it still cannot stop. With 3 little stomachs waiting to be filled, the search for food must continue. By mid-afternoon, as the heat across the savannah begins to subside, the honey badger catches another familiar scent. Ahead lies a colony of African meerkats, busily digging and searching for insects. They are a protein-rich food source, but also one of the most difficult prey to approach. Meerkats live in highly coordinated groups. While most of the colony is foraging, there is always at least one sentinel standing atop a mound, keeping watch over the surroundings. At the slightest sign of danger, it immediately gives a distinctive alarm call. In an instant, the entire group races back to its underground burrow system at remarkable speed. Fully aware of this, the honey badger lowers its body and advances one careful step at a time, making the most of every clump of grass to conceal its presence. The next challenge is no longer one of strength, but of patience and the ability to approach in complete silence. But this time, luck is not on the honey badger's side. A single, subtle movement is enough for the sentinel meerkat to spot the approaching predator. An alarm call rings out, and in the blink of an eye, the entire colony dives into its underground burrow system, disappearing from the surface so quickly that they leave almost no trace behind. The honey badger has no choice but to stop and quietly make its way back to the den, where its 3 cubs are waiting. Today, its food has come from a variety of opportunities. A few scraps of meat left on an antelope carcass, the snake claimed after the secretary bird's battle, and a beehive filled with honey and nutrient-rich larvae. Not every hunt is successful, but it is the honey badger's ability to adapt to every circumstance that has made it one of Africa's most resilient mammals. As the evening light gradually fades, the 3 cubs rest safely beside their mother after surviving another day. Yet on this unforgiving savannah, no victory lasts forever. In just a few hours, when dawn breaks once again, the search for new opportunities will begin anew, because in the wild, every day survived is a victory worth celebrating.